Okay, ready to dive into some of those tricky English grammar things that always seem to trip people up? We're talking about those little words, the ones that can make you sound like, well, a little unsure of yourself. Even for native speakers like myself, honestly.
You're so right. It's funny how the smallest words can sometimes cause the biggest headaches. But hey, that's what makes these deep dives so interesting, right? I always learn so much from going through your grammar lessons. And today we're going to break down those confusing word pairs so everyone listening can use them confidently.
I'm all for that. Let's do it.
Awesome. Let's jump right in then.
So first up, we have in spite of versus despite. And honestly, I've spent way too much time staring at these two, just trying to figure out which one is like the better choice.
Oh, I totally get it. It's a common struggle. But the funny thing is they both mean pretty much the same thing. It's all about something happening regardless of an obstacle, But there are these subtle differences in how they kind of flavor the tone. Like one of the lessons gives this example. Maria decided to go to work by car in spite of there being a lot of traffic. And that in spite of there being part, it just flows, doesn't it?
It does. But now I feel like you're going to tell me there's some hidden grammar rule I should be noticing there, aren't you?
Well, did you catch the gerund?
When you say it like that, maybe not. Refresh my memory.
No worries. It's just a verb acting like a noun, with that ing ending. So instead of saying, in spite of the fact that there was traffic, this way sounds snappier, more natural,
Oh, right. I see what you mean. Okay, that makes total sense. So it's like, in spite of, with a gerund, is the pro-level grammar move.
Exactly. It shows you're paying attention to those little details. Despite is fine, totally correct. But this way is a bit more, I don't know, maybe sophisticated. It depends what you're going for, really.
Got it. So both are good. But in spite of, with the gerund, is like the VIP option. Love it. Okay, speaking of words with options, can we talk about by? That word must have like 5 different dictionary entries.
At least. It's everywhere, like a chameleon blending into every grammar situation.
Okay, so break it down for me. How many bys are we dealing with here?
Let's see, you've got by for location, like by the door, simple enough, or by the river.
Right.
Then there's by for deadlines, right? Like by Monday, I gotta love those. Or by the end of the week, that kind of thing.
Oh, and don't forget by for how you get somewhere. I traveled by train. Or she got here by car. It's like that word has a free pass for all types of transportation.
Exactly. And then you have by indicating the method, how you did something, like he succeeded by working hard, or she learned English by watching movies. Always a good method.
I know, right? It's like by is the secret sauce for success or something. Okay, I gotta ask, is by like this in other languages too? Because in English, that one little word is working overtime.
It's wild how prepositions like by develop, Some languages have these direct equivalents that do all the same jobs, but others, totally different.
See, that's what I love about these grammar deep dives. It's like peeking behind the curtain of language itself.
For sure. You start to see the gears turning, how communication really works.
Okay, so we've tackled in spite of versus despite.
Yeah.
And we've explored all those different bys. But now for time travelers, meanwhile, meantime, and while. Those 3 get me every time.
You and everyone else. They're infamous for causing confusion. But honestly, once you get the differences, it's smooth sailing from there.
All right, untangle that web for me. What's the starting point?
Let's go with meanwhile and meantime first. They're basically interchangeable. Both mean something's happening at the same time as something else.
Yeah, really? I could use them however I want. No need to stress about which one is, more correct.
Exactly. It's more about personal style or what sounds better in the sentence. Like you could say, the chef prepared the main course. Meanwhile, I set the table. Works perfectly, right?
Right.
But you could also say, the chef prepared the main course. In the meantime, I set the table. Same idea, different vibe.
Okay, that makes sense. But then, where does while fit in? Because it's doing a similar job, but feels different somehow.
You're spot on. While is also about things happening at the same time, but it's grammatically different. It's a conjunction, a joiner, directly connecting those actions within the same sentence. The lesson actually had a really clear example. He worked out while listening to music. So while acts like a link between those two things happening simultaneously.
Okay, I see the distinction now. So while is like a bridge inside one sentence, and meanwhile and meantime are like separate bridges connecting totally different sentences.
Exactly, you got it.
Yeah.
While makes that connection inside the sentence super tight.
this is making so much more sense. Like I've been lost in the grammar woods for years, but now I see the path.
That's the beauty of understanding those nuances, right? It can completely change your writing.
Bring on the transformations.
Yeah.
What other gremlins we got lined up? Okay, we've covered so much ground already, but there's one more word pair I got to know. Let versus allow. They both have that permission vibe, right?
Yeah, you're right on the money. Both are about giving the green light, but they hit differently depending on the situation.
Okay, how so?
Think of it like this. Let is like that friend who's super chill, just come on in, doors open. But allow is that host at the fancy dinner party. Please allow me to take your coat.
So one's laid back, the other's formal. Got it.
Exactly. And there's this grammar difference the lesson pointed out. Allow usually has to after it. Like you'd say, allow me to explain. You wouldn't say, let me to explain. Sounds weird.
The two is like the secret handshake for formality.
Totally. Adds a little politeness, a little respect. That's why you see allow more in like business emails or academic papers, that sort of thing.
This is making so much sense. I actually had this awkward moment once in a job interview. I used let when I should have used allow. I think it said something like, let me tell you why I'm the best candidate.
Cringe, but we've all been there. But hey, that's the point, right? These little differences, once you know them, you sound so much more confident.
Absolutely. This whole deep dive has been amazing. Seriously. We tackled in spite of, despite, all those buys, those tricky time words, and now let and allow.
It's been a blast, honestly. But remember, grammar learning never really stops. It's a journey.
So true. And to everyone listening, we want to hear from you. What words trip you up? Hit us up with your grammar gremlins. Maybe we'll feature them in a future episode. Until then, happy writing, happy speaking.